Well, Deshaun Watson had successful shoulder surgery yesterday.
I've never heard of a player having unsuccessful surgery.
Odell Beckham Jr. did.
He did?
Yeah. It's very rare where they announce it's unsuccessful in the moment, but
his ACL just disintegrated.
Yeah.
I do think it is worth mentioning that even though most surgeries are successful, the team doctor came out and said he's expected to be back in full force for 2024, but he is done for 2023. And I was going through and looking up some numbers. And since the end of the 2020 season, so 2021, 2022, 2023, Deshaun will only have played in 12 of 51 potential games. It's a lot of missed time for a quarterback in a position that's constantly evolving, and you need some of those mental reps to stay fresh. Bo, looking ahead for Deshaun Watson's future, what do you think about the surgery and the impact of the missed time will have on Deshaun?
I don't know how you can't have some level of concern, guys, for Deshaun Watson's future. That doesn't mean I'm giving up on him or that I think he sucks now or anything for sure. I'm just saying, when the guy has had another serious injury, and this is a very serious injury that not a lot of quarterbacks have had. I don't know if any quarterbacks have had this specific injury, so we don't know for sure how he's going to recover. Mike gave you the numbers. He's played, it's 12 games, but he's really played 11 because he played 5 snaps in the
I counted the Indy game, but yeah.
Right, he's essentially put 11 out of the last 50 games, right? 34-50.
51, 17.
That's true. It's 3-17. Yeah. 11 out of 50. He missed 40 of his last 51 possible games. He's coming off a shoulder surgery. Now, the thing going in his favor is two things. One, he's still relatively young, right? He's 29, I think. What is he?
He's 28.
What is he?
He's 28. Sorry.
So he's young.
Young at 28.
Y'all sick.
And quarterbacks don't get old till, I'll say 33, 34. But he also, for the first time as a Brown, started to show the arrow pointing up right before he got hurt again. Mm-hmm. What's your level of concern long-term on Deshaun? Or, I don't know, next year or long-term, however you want. What is your level of concern, guys?
So, I don't, what's the recovery process? He's supposed to be able to.
We have no idea.
Supposedly. He's supposed to be able to throw in 2 or 3 months, right? Ain't that what he said?
Who said 2-3 months?
He did.
Mike, did he say 2-3 months?
When he did his press conferences last Tuesday, he said, I think we should be.
I thought he wasn't going to be back until July.
Yeah, I don't think he was fully throwing until sometime next year. But 2-3 months is also sometime next year. So I'm not quite sure where that timeline lines up.
Well, we don't know.
Okay,
I guess we don't know for sure.
So
remember, this is an injury. I don't think there's a comp on this injury, so we don't know. It is a big difference if he's ready in July versus ready in March.
Well, true.
Yeah.
Obviously he probably won't do OTAs this year, which that sucks. If he did OTAs this year, I'd be much more confident going into it. I think it'll be a thing that we just going to have to – he's going to probably start off the season slow next year, and he's got to get his confidence back. I think right before that last game or that Ravens game, it showed that he was finally confident again to go 14-14 with the broken shoulder. I think that probably a little bit why I'm all right with it. With the injury, he was still 14-14, so they just fixing it. I think that my only concern is just him not touching the ball for that long and not, having the chemistry with his guys. That's what's going to play into where he's not going to be great right away. But as the season goes on, I don't expect him not to get back to the form that he was.
But what was he? Because he had not fully regained his form.
Tennessee him and Baltimore Ravens him. That was a pretty that you can win Super Bowls with that. If he gets to that.
If the Browns defense plays next year like it does this year, I would agree with you.
So wait a minute. Let me say. Baltimore, the defense wasn't great, Baltimore. They gave up 31 points.
What was the final score of that game?
33-31, wasn't it?
That is correct.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Well, a lot of that was because of the offense, no? In the first half?
There was
a pick six.
That's okay.
There you go.
All right, so that's 20.
Yeah. There was a muff punt inside the 5.
Okay, that's 20.
Right.
That's 14 points right
so
there.
17 points?
Yeah, so they gave up 17 points.
That's a big difference.
But the Browns still scored 33.
Right? So, yeah, you can win with that defense.
All right, so what are we talking about?
Yeah, you can win with that defense. I got 0.
Zero concern.
0. I mean,
the man is a great competitor. I mean, he worked his butt to get back to where he was at before he left.
I look at it like this. Like, I just go down the sliding scale. Like, if Aaron Rodgers comes back next year, do I expect Aaron Rodgers to
Aaron Rodgers coming back in 2 weeks.
Apparently.
That's what he said. He said he practicing in 2 weeks. Thursday night versus the Browns. It's going to be
I'll believe that
It's
when I
going
see
to be
it.
Aaron Rodgers versus DTR.
That's crazy. If he comes back in that time.
Go ahead, G.
If he comes back in that time,
He
it's
on that
ridiculous.
stuff.
Now, listen, Aaron Rodgers, if he comes back, I'm not going to think that he's going to throw wounded ducks. Joe Burrow's out for the year. He going to miss the rest of this year. He missed a whole year with the ACL, or he missed most of the offseason with the ACL. And he came back, and people was like, is Joe Burrow going to suck? And you're like, no, he's not.
But in fairness, you're talking about missing most of 3 years versus 1 in these cases.
He looked good.
But here's the rebuttal.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson didn't miss those games because he was injured. He missed them because he was in trouble.
Agreed.
So he was just sitting there.
It contributed to his rust, though.
Yes. So if it was, I would take the just chilling rust over I'm hurt rust. The I'm hurt rust is different, like, because you got to get back to a baseline of competing.
Yeah, certainly.
The I'm chilling rust, like he was ready to go. He had to sit out 11 games. He sat out a whole year with the Texans. He played 6 games, and then, he got the little games that he played this year. And the reason why I say 0 is because, I mean, the dude just beat the Baltimore Ravens on the road, and he had a messed up shoulder and a messed up ankle. Like, it's kind of like, once he did that, I was like, all right, he's good.
Half of the recovery process is mental. Like, mentally, he got to be like, I'm back to that dude.
Because guess what? His last game,
that's what he said.
he saw success.
Yeah, he was back.
He's like, oh, okay.
I'm back.
I could
That's
do
what he
this
said.
against, Look, when it counted, I could do this.
Like I said, he went 14-4 with the injury, so like,
Yeah. I got to say, I do have some concern.
Oh, you should.
I mean,
I don't listen to the 0.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
I don't know. I don't know how I can have 0 because I'm worried. I'm a little worried about this injury because it's so unique, and him coming back. If he had not missed the last 2 seasons, I wouldn't be as worried. But the fact that he, again, and I know it wasn't because he was hurt, the fact that he missed all of 2 seasons ago, missed most of last season, and now is missing most of this season, we already saw how long it took him to overcome the rust. It took a while, way more than we thought it would take. And just when he finally started getting over it, he got hurt. And then he started getting over it again, and he got hurt again. And throw in the fact that this injury
it took him 7
is a
games.
unique injury on his shoulder, and I don't know how he's going to recover. If I had, if do I think am I more than 50% worried? No, I'm not more than 50% worried. But to me, there's definitely a level of concern about Watson.
Okay, 5%.
I think that I argue that the reason that he got hurt so much is because he missed all that time.
Maybe he did, but now he's missing more time. And listen, we could spin it however we want. The reality is that even when he played well against Tennessee and then what he did against Baltimore in the second half, I was not ready to say he's fully back yet. I thought he was trending there. I was about to say, I think he's almost there. He's getting close. But he wasn't fully back yet. He wasn't playing like a star. He was playing better, but he wasn't playing like a star yet. Let's be honest about that.
The Tennessee game, he did play like a star.
He still threw for under 300 yards in that game.
Are you serious?
I mean, come on, a star.
Serious?
What you expect when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, I expected him putting up and numbers are down. I get it.
You know why he ain't got over 300 yards? You want to know why?
Why?
Because he ain't got no deep threat outside of Amari Cooper. That's half the reason.
You're the one who's loving Elijah Moore. I think Earl said Elijah Moore was going to have 1,400 yards this
Wait
year.
a minute. Wait a minute.
You two were loving him.
Wait
now
a
you
minute.
can't, now you're going to
Wait a
dismiss him.
minute. I texted y'all before the game. I said Elijah Moore will have his best game.
Yeah.
What was his? Let me go look at his.
And
What was his? What is his?
okay game.
60 yards.
Was that his high for the season?
I'm pretty sure,
We
yeah.
have half our. Anthony said Elijah Moore was going to be second on the Browns in rushing yards. I mean, you guys are crazy.
So I over-exaggerated, so I missed it by a little bit. That's what you do.
I'm just saying.
It's a crapshoot.
We all want Deshaun Watson to be back, to be healthy, and playing like a great player. I got to just be realistic that I have some concerns about it because of everything.
We got a second-round pick this year, right?
I think so.
Correct.
Yeah.
They better find whoever the best second-round wide receiver is.
They don't draft receivers good.
Shoot.
Just
Listen, Diggs is going to be available. Go get Diggs.
Go ahead, Mike. What do you got?
I'm less worried about the physical, and I'm
Yeah.
actually going to let Earl chime in here because we talked a little bit about this on Behind the Glass today. We learned Deshaun was going out. It happened Wednesday morning. We talked about it on the show, but Earl brought up a really good point on Behind the Glass. I'm going to turn the camera and let him talk on it about the mental process Deshaun's going to have to overcome getting back from this injury as opposed to just the physical side of things.
So if you check my Instagram, it's like 1.8 thousand views on the clip we did from Behind the Glass.
He's a big time. Where can they find it at? What's the name?
Earl Pearl 216, the same as my Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I talked about it in all seriousness, all football aside, all occupation aside, because we know Deshaun Watson as a football player, man to man, I'm worried about his mental health. If you think about everything that this dude has been through on and off the football field over the last 3 years, it just got me to thinking about that side of things. Like, what's his state of mind like? What's his emotional stability like? And as men, we already carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We already deal with so much in this world, on a day-to-day basis.
Did you say as men?
As men, let me finish.
All right.
And I think that
Women
when you continue to go through things, every time you get knocked down and you continue to pick yourself back up, and it's like, damn, here's something else that's coming, it can weigh on you. And I know a lot of people, man, who's had things weigh on them to the point to where they took themselves up out of here. And so, I just hope Deshaun Watson know, your life is valuable. And, yeah, your career is a NFL football player, man, but you worth so much more than that. Just continue to pick yourself back up because, as Tyvis alluded to, a lot of it is mental. And sometimes the mental ain't got nothing to do with what you do for a living. It just got to do with your everyday life.
I will say, I can't give too much detail, but I will say that I have heard positive things about Deshaun behind the scenes in terms of doing things necessary in terms of a mental health aspect. I hope that's not confusing because I just don't want to say too much based on what I heard.
He's taking care of his mentals.
Yes, that's what I've been told.
Yes.
That's what I've been told by a very reliable source.
That's great.
I think Deshaun Watson is built for it. Just be honest with you. He went through a lot in his life when he was younger. With his mom having cancer and things like that, not knowing his dad, grew up in a rough upbringing. My thing is, he showed you what he about. Sometimes when you get the last thing you see is some success about yourself, and people say, well, he hasn't gotten back to the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, and I feel like nobody is Houston Texans. That's like saying I wish G. Bush would get back to the barbershop G. Bush 3 years ago. I'm a different person than I was 3 years ago. And so for Deshaun Watson, it's not about getting back to that. It's about what does the Deshaun Watson look like today. And I think we could all agree that Deshaun Watson today, if he was not hurt and the Browns are playing the way they are defensively, we'd have them as a serious Super Bowl contender. Just by the way he was playing then. Just by the way he played against Baltimore. If we could get that Deshaun Watson, forget the Texans win. You pay a quarterback $230 million for what you can do in the fourth quarter.
But I think part of that was that game made us feel like he was going to continue to get better. If the Baltimore if what he did in the Baltimore game and was the highest he was going to get, that's not good enough.
Well, no, I think it's his spots. I think if you telling me 14 out of 14 against the best defense in the game, that's good enough.
But when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, and I remember because I was on the radio when it happened, and I was going bananas, excited. I was screaming and yelling. I wasn't screaming and yelling for him to throw, 230 yards or whatever it was.
Well, I think...
And you could say that's whatever. We all expected Deshaun to be a superstar. Nobody can deny. Let's not pretend we didn't expect that. And he hasn't been. He hasn't played an all-pro level game, in my opinion. Now, you may argue with the Ravens game because when it mattered down the stretch, he did. But Kenny Pickett's done that at times, and we don't say he's played all-pro games.
He ain't been 14-14.
Well, all right. Well, whatever. I mean,
what I would say,
Kenny Pickett did, and you're right. For he's not 14-14. He had a 156.3 QB rating in the last 4 minutes of a game when they were down by a score tied, which is essentially perfect. So it wasn't 14-14, but he also was really good when it mattered most and sucked the rest of the game.
The only way I can compare this slightly, is for people to understand with the Deshaun version that he is now. Like, okay, when that trade was made, you essentially thought he'd be like Patrick Mahomes. You think you would put up those type of numbers. Patrick Mahomes type.
You give up
230, 3 first-round picks. This guy's going to come here. He's going to put up 300-plus yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns a game, lead, be first or third, or 1 through 3 in passing yards every single year, stuff like that.
Right. And that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
There's been circumstances that have affected it, certainly. But
So my thing is, to me, when I look at Deshaun now, it's like Kevin Love. Kevin Love with the T-Wolves was not Kevin Love with the Cavs. 2 totally different things. With the T-Wolves, 20-20 a night. With the Cavs, that's not necessarily what he had to do.
Actually, it was 20. It was about.
That's not a good comparison, Tyler.
27 and 14.
No, you got to understand.
The quarterback's got to be the best player on the team.
You got to understand.
Yeah.
Houston, that's what he had to do. Like, that's the only way they had a chance.
Yeah, he don't have to do
with
that.
Cleveland, with this defense, he don't have to do that. They didn't have to be in that situation.
That sounds like a lot of excuse making.
Not an excuse. I'm just trying to tell you.
It is an excuse.
I'm just telling you. And also in Houston, he had a deep threat that he could throw deep down the field to, and it's a 50-50 ball, which is the best thing that he's good at is throwing deep balls. He don't even have that with the Cleveland Browns.
Nobody was making these excuses before the season.
All I'm telling you is, if you get him if he would have figured it out with Marquise Goodwin, he would have had 300 easily every game.
Here's the thing.
That's one of those completions is 70 yards. You throw 70 yards on top of his numbers now, he's getting 300.
The reality today is here's how you judge a franchise quarterback. The reality of the situation is if Deshaun Watson was playing today and he was completely 100% healthy, the Cleveland Browns could beat anybody in the world.
Fact.
That's a fact.
But he's not healthy.
Well,
it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter.
And the crazy part about it is the team is so good, they probably could beat 90% of the world. Like they may have some trouble against the upper echelon, but the Browns have shown you that they can.
That would make Brock Purdy a franchise quarterback too, because the Niners can beat anybody in the league.
Is he not?
Is he not? He is.
I say, is he not? What?
You know,
you don't think Purdy's a franchise quarterback?
Yeah.
I guess it depends how you define it. No, I don't look at him as a top. I look at him as a tier 3 quarterback.
Tier 3?
Yeah.
Why?
Like
no, wait,
not one.
Why?
Weren't you just arguing with me against Jay when he spread that nonsense about Josh Allen?
I said he was top 15.
Yeah,
I agree.
Tier 3.
All right.
Yeah, tier 3 is like 8.
But I didn't say he was 15. I just said he in the top 15. I never said what number he was.
Tier 3 is 8 in my mind of thinking, and that's like 8 to 13, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Dang. So I got it. Like, how many teams is it?
32.
Yeah.
So I'm breaking down into 10s. Top 10.
No, I don't.
10 to 20 in the bottom.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm like, dang.
But they look at it like tier 1 is only
tier
like
1
3
is Patrick
quarterbacks.
Mahomes.
No, I got one guy on tier 1. That's Patrick Mahomes.
See that? That's why.
That's my tier.
How many tiers do you have?
How do you define
like 6
that?
or 7 tiers.
Oh, okay.
I can't do 6
3 out of 7.
So 3 is.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Who is he with? Who is like Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott.
I'm starting to. But Bull, look.
Tua.
Bull, if this new defensive era is in effect, you
If
got to change that because a lot of them quarterbacks can win.
But G, you can't pretend you didn't expect more from Watson. Than
Wait a minute.
It's not.
You know that.
Let me ask you this.
You thought he was going to throw 5,000 yards? We all thought he threw 4,500, 4,800.
Sometimes, that's what we do in life.
You're right. He may not need to do as much as we wanted him to do, but we can't pretend now we didn't expect him to do that. That's all I'm saying.
Where is he compared to Trevor Lawrence to you?
Who?
Deshaun.
It's hard to compare. I can't. I don't even have Deshaun in a tier right now because I have no idea where to put him.
It's really hard to quantify.
He's
what
like off
Deshaun
to the
is right
side.
now.
He just hasn't played enough the last 3 years. He can be. No, he can't be Mahomes, but he can be tier 2. I think he's capable of being tier 2 with Burrow and those guys, a couple of guys there. But I can't put him on a tier right now because he hasn't played enough.
And you know this, your studies show as humans, we need to put things in groups in context so we can make meaning of it.
Yeah.
If we don't know, like if we didn't have no rankings, we wouldn't know how to feel about the sport. We wouldn't know how to judge or gauge how we see it and we react to certain things.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, the more annoying part is not the fact that they think that Deshaun Watson is not what he thought he was. It's the fact that he hasn't played enough for them to be comfortable in their heart of hearts of saying, I want to be either all in or all not. That people don't like being lukewarm or not knowing.
I am, but I think you're right. Everybody goes into categories, and for me, I'm not willing to do that. I'm staying in the uncomfortable.
What is saying this? Okay, so how can you say somebody like Joe Burrow is in tier 2 and he's been up and down this season?
No, Joe Burrow, since he's been in the league, has been great outside of 3 games this season.
So has Deshaun, right?
No, Deshaun hasn't been great for 3 years.
But we going off of this season though, right?
No, I'm going. Well, not just this season. Obviously, this season weighs a heavier than anything else.
So where's Joe?
Tier 2.
How?
Because he was the last 2 years. He was
But
the second best
you
quarterback
just
in
said
the
we
league.
going off of this
I'm
year.
not
though.
just. I didn't say just this year. I said it's part of the.
You said it was heavily.
It's a heavier part of the equation.
How do you feel about?
Yeah.
If, like I asked Aditi, is Joe Burrow, are you concerned about his long-term health?
I'm not. No.
Now, I haven't seen nobody with no ligament damage in their throwing arm.
Yeah.
I mean, you have
It's a wrist.
Ligament damage in your wrist is devastating for a guy who has to hold the ball.
So maybe I have 1% concern.
Okay, so you had the calf injury. He's a mobile guy.
Yeah, I hear you. But the bottom line is Deshaun is older, has had more injuries, serious injuries.
How old is Joe Burrow?
25.
Yeah.
He's a young old dude. I think Lamar
And Watson's barely played for 3 years, where Burrow has played all until the second half of this year.
And you got the calf, you got the ACL, right?
Yeah.
You got the wrist.
Listen, guys get hurt. That's part of the deal.
That's
What's the point?
My point is just that one. Where you were in
He hasn't missed 40 of his last 50 games.
But
though.
here's the thing. The thing. When you say he missed them games, they're due to suspension.
I hear you, but that fact
it's not like it's wear and tear on his body.
True. I'm not saying I'm not arguing that he's not going to come back. I'm arguing that I don't know how good he is at this point. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that. I
don't know how good. That doesn't mean I don't think he's good. I just don't know how good.
You just don't know.
I don't know.
I can't.
I'm not sure exactly where he is.
He can't see the ceiling and the floor anymore. He's kind of just floating in limbo until he comes back.
I still think
is that what you're
Deshaun
saying,
Watson can get back to the tier 2 with Burrow. I think he's still capable. I'm just not sure. I also think he can be tier 5. I don't know.
Here's what I think. I don't think Deshaun Watson, due to the coach, due to the system, and due to who the Cleveland Browns are as an organization, he's never going to put the numbers he put up in Houston ever.
I don't think so either.
That's gone.
I think that a lot of that has to do with the way defense has adjusted this year as a whole, and if that continues, then I will agree with you.
I also think it has to do with the way Kevin Stefanski wants to play football.
I agree with that too.
I think if they had,
that's why
I do think that's part of it. We still come on. In the end, we all said 5,000. Oh, we all said over 4,500 yards this year.
But sometimes, Bull, guess what? You see what it is.
Right.
You see
things change.
Like
but
to be fair, what we heard was new offense. Wait till y'all see this offense. It's gonna be high power, Deshaun, and that wasn't the case. They ran the ball a lot.
They scrapped that whole thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But as Nick Chubb maybe doesn't come back, I don't know. Maybe they, it's
a lot.
It's hard.
It's hard offensively for the Browns. It's a lot.
Watch this. To me, I watch certain quarterbacks. I don't even think Patrick Mahomes is the same Patrick Mahomes 3 years ago as in the 18. You watch that game?
His numbers are down a little bit.
It's just but
everybody's
it's the way he
numbers
plays.
are down. Everybody's numbers are down.
The game is switched up a little bit.
Except for